Chapter 1. Welcome to the city of the Industrial Revolution. Tonight, slowly, we will take a quiet journey to America in the latter half of the 19th century. Outside the window, a gentle rain is softly tapping against the roof. Tap, 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 tap. As you listen to the peaceful sound of the rain, allow your mind and your body to slowly release the tension. Take a deep, slow breath in, and then gently breathe out. There is no need to hurry anymore. The day you have just lived has already come to an end. For now, all you need to do is listen quietly and begin to imagine an America from long ago. The time is somewhere between the 1860s and the 1890s. Across America, the Industrial Revolution is moving forward with tremendous force. The entire country is beginning to change its shape. Across land that was once covered only by open fields and farmland, large factories are rising, one after another, toward the sky. Rows of tall chimneys stretch upward from morning until night. Dark smoke slowly rises from those chimneys, covering the city in a pale, gray haze. The place where you now stand is somewhere in the northeastern United States, perhaps in Massachusetts, or perhaps in an industrial city in Pennsylvania. The cobblestone streets are slightly wet from the rain. The soft glow of the gas lamps shimmers across the damp stones. Red brick factories, several stories high, stand along the streets. They have large windows, heavy walls, and tall chimneys rising high above the rooftops. Throughout the city, the faint scent of burning coal drifts gently through the air. In the distance, the whistle of a steam locomotive echoes, low and long. Hiss-hoo. The sound slowly fades into the quiet streets of the evening city. During the daytime, countless people walk through these streets. Men, women, and even young children. Every day, they follow the same familiar roads on their way to work in the factories. During this period, many immigrants arrived in America from countries all around the world. They came in search of a new life from Ireland, Germany, Italy, Poland, and many parts of Eastern Europe. People crossed the vast Atlantic Ocean, carrying hope within their hearts. Eventually, they arrived in industrial cities, just like this one. Many of them could not yet speak English well. Even so, they worked day after day to support their families and to create a better future for their children. Today, you will become one of them. You are a factory worker, about 25 years old. You live in a small rented house with your family. At home, your kind and gentle wife is waiting, and beside her are your 2 young children. You are not a wealthy family. There is little money, and few possessions. But the time you spend together around the family table is more precious than anything else. It is a modest home, but it is also a warm and loving home. Every morning, you wake while the sky is still dark. You work through a long day, and in the evening, you return home with a tired body and weary hands. Day after day, you quietly repeat the same routine. The place where you work is a large textile mill. Inside the building, hundreds of machines move without stopping. Their steady rhythm fills the entire room. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. It sounds as though an enormous clock is turning and keeping the entire city in motion. Over time, you have grown accustomed to the sound. It has become a familiar part of your everyday life. Of course, the work is not easy. You begin early in the morning and continue until late in the afternoon. The hours are long and the work is tiring. But for the people of this time, such a life is not unusual. Nearly everyone works quietly to survive today and to reach the morning of tomorrow. So tonight, we will not rush through their busy lives. Instead, we will observe them slowly, gently, and peacefully. We will not focus only on hardship. We will quietly explore the ordinary lives of the people who lived during this remarkable age. The sounds of the factory, the streets of the industrial city, the warm moments shared with family, the rain falling gently upon the cobblestones, the comforting glow of a lamp inside a small home. As you picture these quiet scenes, allow yourself to drift closer and closer towards sleep. And now, we are about to begin a peaceful day in the life of a textile factory worker living in America during the Industrial Revolution, sometime between the 1860s and the 1890s. Together, we will quietly experience each part of this distant day. So please, allow your body to become heavy. Let your mind grow calm. And as the gentle rain continues around you, welcome the beginning of our story. Slowly, softly, and peacefully. Chapter 2. Dawn, the morning walk to the factory. The sky is still dark. The city remains quietly asleep. The rain that began last night continues to tap gently against the rooftops and softly wets the cobblestone streets. Outside the window, a pale morning mist hangs in the air, covering the entire city in a soft, gray veil. Only the small flame of an oil lamp faintly illuminates the room. Slowly, you begin to wake. Your body, still heavy with sleep, stretches just a little. Then, quietly, you take a deep breath. The cool morning air fills your lungs, and little by little, your body begins to awaken. The room is not large. It is a small wooden house rented by your family. There are narrow gaps between some of the boards, and through them, the wind from outside quietly slips in. In winter, the house is cold. In summer, it becomes warm and humid. It is a simple home, but within these walls, there is the warmth of family. Beside you, your wife slowly opens her eyes. She rises quietly and places a few small pieces of wood into the fireplace. Crackle, crackle. With each gentle sound, a small flame slowly grows. Soft warmth begins to spread through the room. Before long, white steam rises from an iron kettle. The rich scent of coffee slowly fills the entire house. Breakfast is not luxurious. There is a piece of bread, no longer fresh and slightly hard. There is also a bowl of oatmeal, warmed from the evening before. Sometimes there is a little butter. On fortunate mornings, there may even be one egg, and beside it all, a cup of warm black coffee. It is simple, but for the long day that lies ahead, it feels like more than enough. The family gathers quietly around the table. Your young children rub their sleepy eyes and slowly climb onto their small chairs. You look at them with a gentle smile and softly stroke their hair. Good morning. Only 2 quiet words, yet those words bring warmth to the whole family. Your wife hands you a small bundle wrapped in cloth. It will be your midday meal. Inside, there is bread, a little cheese, and on some days, a cold potato. The meal is plain, but it is filled with the quiet kindness of your family. When breakfast is finished, you put on your heavy work clothes. You place a slightly worn hat upon your head. Your leather boots have become stiff after years of daily use. Even so, they will carry you once again through another day. You open the front door. The cool morning air gently touches your face. The city is slowly beginning to wake. Workers from the same factory appear from different streets and narrow alleys. They walk in silence, their faces still tired and touched by sleep. Without speaking much, they continue toward the factory. Because of last night's rain, small puddles have formed along the road. On the unpaved paths, your boots sink slightly into the soft mud. The wet earth quietly absorbs the sound of each step. Step, step, step. The sound of leather boots moves slowly through the peaceful morning. In the distance, a horse-drawn wagon rolls along on wooden wheels. Rattle, rumble, rattle, rumble. The wagon is loaded with cotton, coal, and timber, all being carried toward the factories. Farther away, the whistle of a steam locomotive drifts through the morning mist. Hiss, woo, breathing out a cloud of steam. The train carries workers, travelers, and heavy cargo into the beginning of a new day. From the tall chimneys, dark smoke begins to rise. The factory is preparing to awaken. Once again, you watch the smoke while continuing to walk quietly. There is no need to rush, no need to hurry. It is a calm morning, much like every other morning. Before long, a vast red brick factory slowly appears beyond the mist. Tall chimneys, large windows, and a heavy iron gate. Soon, the workday will begin. But for now, the morning is still quiet. So let us continue walking together toward the factory while gently taking in the stillness of this peaceful hour. Chapter 3. The Factory Morning. The long hours marked by the looms. Beyond the morning mist, the enormous red brick factory slowly comes into view. From its tall chimneys, dark smoke rises without pause and quietly dissolves into the dim morning sky. In front of the factory, many workers have already gathered. Men wearing heavy coats, women dressed in long skirts with cloth wrapped around their shoulders, and young workers whose faces still carry the heaviness of sleep. Everyone is walking quietly in the same direction. Very little conversation can be heard. There is only the sound of leather shoes stepping across the cobblestones, the turning wheels of horse-drawn wagons, and the low, heavy vibration coming from inside the factory. Rumble, rumble, clatter, clatter, thump, thump. The sound passes through the thick brick walls and slowly reaches the streets outside. You walk through the large iron gate. Beside the entrance, a man stands, watching the workers as they enter. He quietly studies each passing face. You tilt your hat slightly and continue past him. The moment you enter the factory, the cold air outside quickly disappears. In its place, a heavy mixture of steam, machine oil, and damp cotton wraps around your body. Inside the vast building, a long passageway stretches into the distance. On either side, dozens and then hundreds of machines stand in long rows. High above, a thick iron shaft runs beneath the ceiling. Wide leather belts hang from it, turning without pause. Hum, hum, hum. The belts continue moving at the same steady speed. The overhead shaft turns. The gears begin to move. Smaller pulleys spin, and that power travels down to every loom, one by one. Thump, clatter, thump, clatter. One machine moves. The next machine moves. And the machine beyond it repeats the same motion. It is almost as though the factory itself were an enormous, living creature, slowly breathing in one steady rhythm from the joints of the steam pipes. White vapor occasionally escapes, Hiss, hiss, the steam stretches into a thin white line before disappearing into the factory air. Through the large windows, the pale light of morning enters the room. Within that light, tiny pieces of cotton dust float slowly, slowly through the air. The white particles rise upward, then drift downward before the vibration of the machines lifts them once again, floating, drifting. Fine cotton dust slowly settles upon your shoulders and upon your hat. You continue toward your usual station. You walk down the long passage, past row after row of moving looms, toward the place where you will work from morning until evening. Before you stands a large loom built from wood and iron. It is already moving at a steady speed. Countless fine threads are stretched vertically before you. Between them, the shuttle, carrying the horizontal thread, moves rapidly from side to side. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. The shuttle travels to the right, carrying the thread. Then it returns to the left, carrying another thread, one strand, and then another. The fine threads overlap, little by little, becoming a single piece of cloth. Your work is to watch the thread and fabric and make certain the machine does not stop. You watch for tangled thread, for thread that has become loose, for fabric edges that have begun to bend, and for even a single strand that may have broken. You narrow your eyes and carefully watch each thread as it moves past you. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. The machine continues without stopping. You walk from one side of the loom to the other. You look at the cloth. You look at the thread. You watch the movement of the shuttle. And then you return to where you began. Walk. Look. Check. Return. Walk. Look. Check. Return. The same movements continue quietly. Again and again. Before long, one thread begins to tremble. A moment later, it breaks with a tiny snap. You notice it immediately. You check the movement of the loom and search for the broken ends. You take one end of the thread, then the other, and gently bring them together. Between your fingers, the fine thread is covered in cotton dust and is difficult to see clearly. Even so, your hands remember the work. Your fingers hold the thread, form a small knot, and tie the ends securely together. Then, you return the thread to its proper place. The loom begins again in the same familiar rhythm. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. For a moment, you watch the knot travel forward. There is no problem. The thread returns to the fabric and is quietly woven among all the others. You breathe out softly and begin walking in front of the loom. Once again, walk. Look. Check the thread. Watch the cloth. Walk again. Look again. Check again. Time moves slowly. Yet inside the factory, morning and afternoon do not feel very different. Even as the sky outside grows brighter, the sound of the machinery does not change. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. The sound of steam does not change. Hiss, hiss. The turning belts do not change. Hum, hum, hum. Everything continues in the same rhythm, again and again. Beside you, a young woman watches the spindles. Several bobbins turn round and round, winding fine thread onto their wooden cores, turning, winding, turning again, winding again. When one bobbin becomes full, she watches the machine and removes it. Then she replaces it with an empty one. Remove, set down, place another, check, let it turn again, round and round. Another worker carries a large bundle of thread, holding a wooden frame covered in fine strands. With both hands, he walks slowly along the passageway. He moves between the machines, carries the frame to where it is needed, and quietly sets it down. Then he walks back to collect another bundle. Go. Carry. Set down. Return. Go. Carry. Set down. Return. Throughout the factory, each worker repeats their own task again and again. There is little time for conversation. The machines are so loud that even words spoken to the person beside you can barely be heard. From time to time, someone raises a hand and gives a short signal, a signal that more thread is needed, a signal that a machine must be stopped, a signal calling for the overseer. More than words, it is movement and eye contact that carry meaning. When your eyes meet those of the worker beside you, you give a small nod. That is enough to say that today you are both still here, still working. As always, after a while, the hard sound of leather shoes begins to approach from the far end of the passage. Tap, tap, tap. It is the factory overseer. He wears a dark coat and carries a small notebook in one hand. He walks along the passage, looking carefully at every machine. He studies the quality of the cloth, the movement of the workers, and whether any loom has stopped. When he reaches your station, he raises his voice slightly so it can be heard above the machinery. Watch the tension on the thread. His voice quickly disappears into the noise of the looms. You nod slightly and return your eyes to the thread. The sound of the overseer's shoes slowly fades away. Tap, tap, tap. And once again, only the machines fill the factory. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. You check the tension of the thread. You touch one strand with your finger, then check the next, and then the one beside it. Is it too tight? Is it too loose? Has it begun to sag? Is it close to breaking? One strand, then another. One strand, then another. Dozens, and then hundreds of threads pass before your eyes. As you watch them, your sense of time slowly begins to fade. What hour of the morning is it? How much time has passed? It becomes difficult to know. There is only the moving thread. There is only the shuttle traveling back and forth. There is only the fabric slowly growing longer. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. You begin walking. Again, you walk to the right and watch the thread. You return to the left and examine the cloth. You bend down slightly and look beneath the machine. You stand again and look beneath the machine. You stand again and check the bobbins. You walk again. You return again. The same movements continue over and over. Slowly, you begin to feel a heaviness beneath your feet. Your stiff leather boots surround your feet, and with every step, carry the vibration of the floor. Each time the machinery moves, the floor trembles slightly. Rumble, rumble. The gentle vibration travels upward from your feet to your knees, and from your knees to your lower back. Your shoulders also begin to grow tired. Even so, your hands do not stop. Your eyes remain fixed upon the thread. Another strand breaks. Snap. You search for the broken place among the white threads. You find the single broken strand and hold both ends between your fingertips. Bring together. Tie. Pull gently to check. Return it to its place. Bring together. Tie. Pull gently to check. Return it to its place. It is a very small task, but that small task is repeated again and again. When one thread has been repaired, another begins to loosen. After that is fixed, you notice a bobbin is nearly empty. You take a new bobbin and replace the old one. You remove the wooden spindle, place a new one into position, find the end of the thread, and guide it through the machine. Guide the thread, pull it forward, tie it, check the tension, watch the machine. Guide the thread, pull it forward, tie it, check the tension, watch the machine. The loom, once again, continues in its steady rhythm. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. The morning light is slowly growing, stronger. The large windows cast long bands of light across the factory floor, yet soot and dust cover the glass, so the sunlight remains soft and dim. Within that pale light, cotton dust continues to drift. White cotton dust, gray smoke, thin steam, the scent of machine oil, the heavy, humid air, and the sound that never ends. Hum, hiss, clatter, thump. All of these come together to form The morning, inside the factory. Before long, a signal, announcing a short break, sounds from the far end of the building. Clang, clang. The sound of the large bell passes over the noise of the machines. Not every machine comes to a stop. Several looms continue moving. Even so, the workers are allowed to rest their hands for a few moments. You step away from the loom and move toward the wall. You rest your back against the cool brick. You stretch the legs that have carried you for so long. You roll your shoulders, open your fingers, and slowly close them. Again, fine pieces of cotton cling to the fingertips that have tied so many threads. With your sleeve, you wipe the sweat from your forehead. Even in the morning, the factory has become warm. The moving machines, the steam pipes, the many workers, all of their heat gathers inside the building. You lift a small container and drink a mouthful of water. The cool water moves slowly down your dry throat. One small drink, then another. Even that is enough to make your body feel slightly lighter. Nearby, other workers lean against the wall. One closes his eyes. Another adjusts the position of a worn boot. Someone else uses a small cloth to wipe dust from their face. No one speaks for long. Everyone knows the break will be brief. For a few moments, the sound of the factory seems slightly farther away. Even so, the belts are still turning. The steam is still moving. Yes. Somewhere. The machine continues to work. Cutter. Cutter. Close your eyes. Just once. For a brief moment. You remember your home. The dim room. The small fire in the hearth. The scent of morning coffee. The sleepy faces of your children. The small cloth bundle your wife placed in your hands. It feels as though breakfast at the family table happened a very long time ago. Yet when you remember that warm scene, a little strength returns to your tired body. Before long, the bell sounds. Again. Clang. Clang. The short break is already over. You lift your back from the wall. You adjust your hat, roll your sleeves back into place, and slowly return to your station. The loom stands exactly where you left it. The threads are stretched, thin and straight. The shuttle begins moving. Once again, whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. Again, you watch the thread. You watch the cloth. You look at the bobbins. You listen to the sound of the machinery. You begin walking. Again, walk to the right. Return to the left. Stop. Bend slightly. Touch the thread. Check the tension. Release it. Walk again. The same motions. Begin. Once more. Clatter. Clatter. Thump. Thump. Watch the thread. Walk. Watch the cloth. Return. Watch the thread. Walk. Watch the cloth. Return. Time begins again to move quietly. The chill you felt early in the morning has disappeared. In its place, the warmth of the factory and the weight of exhaustion continue to grow. A thin layer of sweat forms across your back, and your shirt clings slightly to your skin. Cotton dust rests upon your shoulders, and white fibers have gathered in your hair. You take a deeper breath, but the air is filled with fine cotton strands. You cough quietly and return to the work. This is not only today. Yesterday, you worked in the same way. Tomorrow, you will likely do the same. Watch the thread. Walk. Tie the thread. Watch the cloth. Walk again. Tie another thread. Morning passes. Noon draws closer. Still, the machines continue moving. Clatter. Clatter. Thump. Thump. Inside the factory, when one worker stops, another continues. When one thread breaks, other threads continue to move. When one machine stops, the loom beside it continues without change. The entire factory becomes one unbroken flow, continuing to make cloth. A single thread becomes a piece of fabric. That fabric will be carried to distant towns. It may become someone's clothing and eventually part of someone's life. But for now, all you can see is the white thread moving in front of you. One strand, then another. One strand, then another. They move in perfect order, quietly traveling in the same direction. You continue to watch them without rushing, without stopping. You simply repeat the same work again and again. Watch, walk, check, tie, return. Watch, walk, check, tie, return. Before long, the repetition becomes like the sound of rain falling in a steady rhythm. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump, whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. Your breathing slowly begins to follow the rhythm of the machines. Breathe in, watch the thread. Breathe out, walk a little farther. Breathe in, watch the cloth. Breathe out, return again. The same morning passes within the same sounds, slowly and steadily. Before long, the light coming through the windows has moved slightly higher. The end of the morning is slowly drawing near. Your feet feel heavier than they did at dawn. Your shoulders carry the weight of the work. Even so, your hands continue their familiar movements. Find the thread, hold the end, tie it gently, check the tension, return it to its place. Then, watch the machine. Once again, clatter, clatter, thump, thump. Soon, the signal for midday will sound. But until that moment arrives, you remain before the loom, working as you always do. Watch the thread. Watch the cloth. Walk a little. Return again. White cotton dust drifts slowly through the light. Steam escapes in a thin line. The leather belts continue turning above your head. Hundreds of machines weave cloth in the same steady rhythm. And you, within that great flow, continue the work of the long morning, quietly, steadily, and without pause. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump, hiss. Watch the thread. Walk, tie, return. Watch the thread. Walk, tie, return. Surrounded by the steady sound and the simple, repeating movements. The long hours of the morning pass slowly, slowly away. Chapter 4. The short midday break. A simple meal and memories of home. Before long, from deep inside the factory, a bell, marking the end of the morning shift, begins to ring. Clang, clang, clang. The heavy sound travels slowly above the thunder of hundreds of looms. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. One by one, the looms begin to slow. The shuttles that had been racing from side to side come to a stop. The bobbins that had been turning begin to lose speed. The leather belts running beneath the ceiling also begin to slow. Hum, hum, hum. And the great wall of noise that had filled the entire factory slowly begins to fade. It is not completely quiet. Farther inside the building, several machines continue to move. Thin steam still escapes from the pipes. Hiss, hiss. Yet compared with the roar of the morning, the factory now feels strangely still. You examine the loom before you. You check that the threads have not shifted. You look for any place that may cause trouble when the machine starts again. Then, after one final glance at the edge of the cloth, you slowly step away from your station. Your legs feel heavy after standing through the long morning. A dull weariness rests in your knees. You stretch your lower back and gently roll your shoulders. The muscles that had grown stiff begin to loosen just a little. Around you, the other workers also leave their machines and begin walking toward places where they can eat. Some move toward the factory wall. Some sit upon wooden crates, using them as chairs. Others step outside into the yard, searching for cooler air. You reach for the small cloth bundle your wife gave you early that morning. Holding it carefully, you walk toward a long wooden bench in a quiet corner of the factory. Several workers from the same section are already seated there. You find an empty space and slowly sit down. You allow the strength to leave your legs for a few moments. Even the hard wooden bench feels almost soft after so many hours. On your feet, You lean your back against the wall and breathe out deeply. The air still carries the scent of oil, steam, and damp cotton. Yet a small window nearby has been opened. Through it, the cool air of midday moves gently into the room. The breeze touches your damp forehead and your dusty cheeks. You remove your hat and shake it lightly. The cotton dust that had settled upon it rises like a small white cloud. Then you place the cloth bundle upon your knees and slowly loosen the tight knot. Inside, there is a piece of bread, slightly hard from the morning air, a small piece of cheese, a cold potato, and a little salt. It is not a rich meal. It is not a warm meal. But after the long hours of the morning, the small portion feels more valuable than anything else. You lift the bread and take a slow bite. You chew the firm bread carefully and swallow quietly the plain taste of the bread, the saltiness of the cheese, the soft texture of the cold potato. All of them are familiar. They are the same simple flavors you have tasted many times before. Yet when you remember that your wife woke early and wrapped the meal for you, the humble food seems to hold a little warmth. You take another bite. You chew slowly, then swallow in silence. Beside you sits an older worker from Ireland. He has worked inside the mill for many years. His hands are broad, and his fingertips carry many small scars. He too eats quietly from a cloth bundle containing bread and boiled potatoes. A little farther away, a young couple from Germany share a small container of cold stew. Beyond them, a young man from Poland carefully slices a piece of dark bread. Their countries are different. Their languages are different. The towns where they were raised are different. Yet now, they all work inside the same factory. They rest at the sound of the same bell, and they eat the same kind of simple meal. For a while, no one says very much. There is only the sound of cloth bundles opening, bread being torn, water being swallowed, and the low vibration of distant machinery. Before long, the older Irish worker holds a potato in one hand and quietly begins to speak. Back home, he looks somewhere beyond the factory wall. As he continues, the green fields went on beyond the hills. His voice carries a soft trace of longing. In his homeland, he says, rain often fell over the countryside. Small stone houses stood quietly between green hills. In the morning, the sound of sheep could be heard. In the evening, the scent of wet earth and grass spread through the village. You listen without speaking, holding the bread in your hand. Inside the red brick factory, you begin to imagine the distant green hills of Ireland, grass moving in the wind, a cloudy sky, a narrow dirt road, a small stone house, a quiet landscape, completely different from the industrial city around you. The young German worker also begins to speak about his home, his family. Once owned a small bakery in a village. Before dawn, his father would light the oven. His mother would knead the dough upon a large wooden table. The scent of fresh bread would drift beyond the doorway. Neighbors would arrive, carrying baskets to buy the morning loaves. The young man looks down at the hard bread in his hand and smiles faintly. One day, I would like to taste that bread again. At those words, the workers nearby smile quietly. It is not loud laughter, only a small softening at the corners of tired mouths, a gentle laugh shared between weary people. You also begin to smile. Throughout the morning, the machines had been too loud for anyone to hear another voice. But during this short midday break, each worker briefly becomes more than a pair of hands feeding the machines. For a few moments, they become people who remember home, who miss their families, and who still think about the future. A little farther away, two workers begin discussing their wages for the week. It was almost the same as last week. One of them speaks quietly, even though the rent went up. The other tears off a piece of bread and nods. The price of coal, the price of flour, the rent, the cost of repairing shoes. A family needs many things simply to live. Yet even after long hours of labor, very little money remains. One worker says he hopes to buy a winter coat for his child. Another speaks of sending a little money to family members still living in the old country. No one works only for themselves. There is a wife waiting at home, a young child, parents far across the ocean, or the hope of a family that has not yet been born. Inside every worker, there is someone they are trying to support. The older Irish worker speaks again in a low voice. If only the wages were a little higher. The others nod quietly, but no one raises their voice. The overseer may be nearby. Inside the factory, even complaints must be spoken with care. And so, the conversation quickly grows softer. Then, someone begins to speak about his daughter. My little girl wrote her own name for the first time yesterday. The man smiles with quiet pride. The letters were crooked, but she wrote them. A small laugh moves through the group. Another woman says her son has recently begun to help more around the house. He carries water. He gathers small pieces of wood And he watches his younger sister when his mother is busy. The tired faces of the workers begin to soften just a little. You too remember the faces of your children that morning, their sleepy eyes as they climbed onto their small chairs, the little smile that appeared when you touched their hair. You wonder what they are doing at this very moment. Perhaps they are helping their mother inside the house. Perhaps they are playing with a small wooden toy. Perhaps they are standing beside the window, counting the drops of rain. The thought brings a little warmth to your tired heart. You lift the last piece of potato and eat it slowly. You touch it to a little salt, chew carefully, and swallow the final bite. Inside the cloth bundle, only a few crumbs remain. You gather them with your fingertips and bring them to your mouth. Nothing can be wasted. Not the hard bread, not the cold potato, not the small piece of cheese. Every bite will become part of the strength you need for the long afternoon. Through the nearby window, midday light enters quietly. The sun, now higher than it was in the morning, casts a pale glow across the factory yard. The rain has become a little lighter. Drops of water fall from the roof and strike the ground at steady intervals. Drip, drip, drip. In the yard, several workers sit against the wall, taking what little rest they can. One places a hat over his face and closes his eyes. Another sits quietly with his back bent. Someone else reads a letter from home again and again. Everyone spends the few remaining moments in their own way. You also close your eyes for a short while. Now that the loom beside you has stopped, the sound of the morning still remains inside your ears. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. The nearby machines are no longer moving. Yet after listening to them for so long, the same rhythm continues. Somewhere inside your mind, you breathe slowly, in and out. You release the heavy air that is gathered inside your chest. You relax your legs. You lower your shoulders. You slowly open the fingers that tied so many threads throughout the morning. Your fingertips tremble just a little. You place both hands together upon your knees. For a brief moment, there is nothing you must do. You do not need to watch the thread. You do not need to inspect the cloth. You do not need to walk between the looms. For now, you simply sit. You breathe, and you feel the cool air entering through the window. But the midday break cannot last for long. Everyone knows this. Several workers occasionally glance toward the clock hanging Upon the factory wall, its hands continue to move without rest. The older Irish worker finishes his final potato and begins to fold the cloth. The young German couple close their empty container. The Polish worker wraps the remaining dark bread and places it inside his coat. The voices begin to fade. Stories of home, thoughts about family, quiet complaints about wages. One by one, they return to the private places inside each worker's heart. Before long, from deep inside the factory, the bell announcing the afternoon shift begins to ring. Clang, clang, clang. At the sound, the workers slowly rise, even though they wish for more rest. The bell cannot be ignored. You lift your back from the wall and slowly stand. You place your weight upon your tired legs. Once again, you straighten your knees, stretch your lower back, and pull your hat down firmly. You fold the empty cloth into a small square and place it inside your coat so it will not be lost. Before evening, you briefly meet the eyes of the man who had been sitting beside you. See you later. Only a few words. Then, you both begin walking back toward your stations along the long passageway. The workers move together. The sound of leather shoes gathers upon the factory floor. Tap, tap, tap. The man who spoke of the green hills of Ireland. The young worker who remembered the smell of his family's bakery. The father who proudly told of his daughter writing her own name. All of them now return to the faces of factory workers. And you too return to your loom. The same machine of wood and iron. The same hundreds of threads stretched before you. The same unfinished cloth waiting to grow longer. You examine the threads, one, then another. Is any thread loose? Is any thread tangled? Is any strand close to breaking? Farther down the passageway, the overseer raises one hand to signal the return to work. The great shaft beneath the ceiling slowly begins to turn. Rumble. The leather belts gain speed. Hum, hum. The bobbins begin to rotate. The gears begin to move. And the shuttles that had been still once again race from side to side. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. One loom comes alive, then the next, then another. Farther down, the long room. Thump, thump, clatter, clatter. The stories of home, the memories of children, and the quiet complaints about wages slowly disappear beneath the returning noise of the machines. But they are not truly gone. The green hills of Ireland, the scent of fresh bread, the faces of families waiting at home, all of them remain inside each worker like a small, steady light, and carrying that small light within your chest. You turn, once again, toward the thread. Watch. Walk. Check. Return. Watch. Walk. Check. Return. The short midday break has ended, and the long afternoon inside the factory slowly begins. Chapter 5, Part 1. The long afternoon shift. Fading light and machines that never stop. The short midday break has come to an end, and throughout the factory, the sound of hundreds of looms begins once again to spread. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump, whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. The thick iron shaft, running beneath the ceiling, turns steadily. From it, wide leather belts hang downward, moving at a constant speed. Hum, hum, hum. Gears interlock, pulleys turn, and the shuttles travel from right to left and from left to right, carrying thread without pause. You stand in the same place where you worked before lunch. Quietly, you watch the fine threads moving before you. The loom, the thread, and the cloth that has already been woven have not changed since the morning, but within your body, the weariness that has gathered since dawn is beginning to remain. The short break eased the heaviness in your legs for a little while. Thoughts of your family brought a small amount of strength back into your heart. Even so, your feet have already crossed the same floor many times. Your fingers have tied countless threads. Your back has absorbed the vibration of the machines, and your eyes have watched the moving thread for many long hours. In every part of your body, a quiet exhaustion is slowly beginning to settle. You roll your shoulders backward just once. You gently tilt your stiff neck, and then turn your eyes toward the loom. Again, watch the thread, watch the cloth, watch the shuttle, check the bobbins, walk to the right, return to the left, stop, bend slightly, check the tension of the thread, then begin walking again. The afternoon shift begins, just as the morning did, with the same quiet repetition. Watch, walk, check, return, watch, walk, check, return, clatter, clatter, thump, thump. Through the large windows, the light of early afternoon enters at an angle. In the morning, the light had stretched low across the floor. Now, it reaches the sides of the machines and softly touches the shoulders of the workers. But the glass has been covered over many years with soot and fine cotton dust. The brightness outside enters the factory, softened and clouded. Beyond the windows, gray clouds cover the sky. The rain, which has grown lighter, still falls quietly. Thin drops move down the surface of the glass. One drop joins another, and together, they slowly travel, downward, sliding, sliding, drip, drip. The soft rain is hidden beneath the roar of the machinery. It can barely be heard, yet when you stand near the window, you can still sense the presence of the rain somewhere beyond the noise. For only a brief moment, you look toward the glass, the wet yard, the stacked wooden crates, a wagon darkened by the rain, black smoke rising from the chimney. Beyond it, the roofs of other factories stretch into the distance. But soon, you return your attention to the thread. Even while you looked outside, the loom continued moving without pause. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. One strand has become slightly loose. You notice it and move closer. With your fingertips, you gently test the tension. You touch it lightly, pull it just a little, then compare it with the thread beside it. Following the loose strand, you discover that it has tangled slightly near the bobbin. You watch the moving machine and reach forward without rushing. You keep your sleeves and your fingers away from the turning parts. Then slowly, you loosen the tangled thread. Lift one strand, separate it from the next, guide it back into the narrow groove where it belongs. The thread begins to move straight again. You check the tension one more time. When you are certain that everything is in order, you return to your usual place. Watch, walk, check, return, watch, walk, check, return. During the afternoon, even the same movements seem to last a little longer than they did in the morning. With every step, your leather boots feel heavier. Even bending down and standing again leaves a dull ache deep in your back. Your fingertips are covered with machine oil and cotton dust. The skin has become dry and slightly hard. You rub your thumb against your finger to check that you can still feel the thread. Then, with the same fingers, you hold another strand. The thread is very light. If you pull too strongly, it will break. If you tie it too loosely, the knot will come apart. Not too hard, not too soft. With steady pressure, hold it gently, tie it gently, return it gently to its place. Watch the thread, find the end, bring both sides together, tie a small knot, check the tension, release it, then watch the next thread. Your hands have repeated these movements so many times that they no longer need much thought. But in the afternoon, when exhaustion has deepened, it becomes even more important to remain alert. Above you, the leather belts turn at great speed along the sides of the machines. Iron gears continue to interlock. The shuttle moves too quickly for the eye to follow completely. Hair, sleeves, fingertips, loose cloth, nothing can be allowed to move too close to the machinery. You check that your sleeves have not loosened. You tighten them around your wrists. Then you pull your hat firmly down upon your head. If your attention drifts for even a brief moment, the machine will not wait. And so you perform each movement quietly and carefully. Do not rush. Do not move too close. Watch the machine. Watch the thread. Watch where your hands are. Then continue the work. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. After a while, from somewhere nearby, you hear a different sound. Clatter, clatter, rattle, 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 rattle. Among the steady rhythm of the machines, an uneven vibration begins to appear. The workers nearby turn their eyes toward the sound. At one loom, several threads have become badly tangled. The edge of the cloth is beginning to pull into the machine. The worker at that station immediately raises one hand and signals to the overseer. From the far end of the passage, the overseer walks quickly toward the machine. Tap, 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 tap. Stop it. His short voice rises above the machinery. The worker reaches for the stopping lever. The loom slowly begins to lose speed. Rattle, rattle, rattle. Then it comes to a stop. The machine beside it continues moving. So does the next and the next. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. Around the silent loom, tangled thread hangs in a small white mass. The edge of the cloth has also become crooked. The overseer and the worker study the tangled thread. They do not reach in immediately. First, they make certain that the machine has fully stopped. They wait until every moving part has become still. Only then do they begin to remove the tangled thread, little by little. One strand, then another. Pull it free. Loosen it. Gather the broken ends. Check carefully that nothing remains near the gears. If someone had reached in while the loom was still moving, a hand or a sleeve might have been caught. Everyone who works inside the factory understands that risk. The workers nearby paused for only a moment, but when they notice the overseer watching, they quickly return to their own machines. You too turn once again toward your loom. No accident has happened. No one has been hurt. Even so, the uneven sound you heard reminds you to remain careful. Watch. Check. Do not move too close. Watch your hands. Tighten your sleeves. Watch the machine. Then, continue working. You slowly breathe out once. Then you return your eyes to the thread. One strand, then another. One strand, then another. Chapter 5. The long afternoon shift. Fading light and machines that never stop the afternoon work returns to its familiar rhythm. Watch the thread, watch the cloth, walk a little, return again. Check the tension, look at the bobbins, look beneath the machine. Stand again, walk once more. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. At the stopped loom, the tangled thread is slowly being removed. The crooked edge of the cloth is carefully straightened. New thread is guided through the machine. Broken ends are tied. The gears are checked. The leather belt is examined. Before long, the overseer signals to the worker. The loom slowly begins to move again. Rattle, thump, clatter, clatter. At first, it moves carefully. Then, it returns to the same speed as the machines around it. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. The uneven sound disappears, and the loom, once again, joins the great rhythm of the factory. Listening to that sound, you continue walking to the right, to the left. Stop, bend, stand, watch the thread, watch the cloth, then return again. The afternoon is moving, slowly but steadily, forward. The light coming through the windows is beginning to weaken. At midday, it reached the sides of the machines. Now, it has grown shorter and thinner, leaving pale shadows upon the floor behind the gray clouds. The sun is beginning to lower toward the west. The raindrops, moving down the glass, appear darker than before. At the far end of the factory, natural light is no longer enough for careful work. The workers narrow their eyes to see the fine strands, white thread, and white cotton dust begin to blend together. The space between one thread and another is becoming harder to see. You lean a little closer to examine the moving strands, but you remain careful not to move too near the machine. A little closer, only slightly. Narrow your eyes. Watch the thread. Nothing is broken. Nothing is tangled. The tension has not changed. You slowly move back to your proper place. Before long, the gas lamps along the passageway are lit, one by one. A worker, holding a long lighting pole, walks slowly from one end of the factory. When the flame touches a lamp, a small yellow light suddenly appears. Flicker, then another. Flicker, and another. Flicker throughout the factory, which has begun to darken. A warm yellow glow slowly spreads. The flames inside the gas lamps move gently. They sway with the air created by the machinery. They lean to the right, then to the left. They grow smaller. For a moment, then brighten. Once again, swaying, flickering. The light reflects upon the iron parts of the machines. It softly illuminates the gears, shining with oil. It also touches the turning bobbins and causes the white thread to glimmer for an instant. Natural light and gaslight begin to mix, the cool gray light entering through the windows and the warm yellow light glowing inside the factory come together and quietly turn the afternoon toward evening. Still, the work is not finished, even after the gas lamps have been lit. The looms continue at the same speed. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump. And you continue the same work. Watch, walk, check, return. Watch the thread. Watch the cloth. Watch the shuttle. Check the bobbins. One strand breaks. Find the ends. Hold them between your fingers. Bring them together. Tie a small knot. Pull gently to check. Return it to its place. Walk again. Watch. Walk. Check. Return. As the afternoon grows deeper, the heaviness in your legs continues to increase. Your heels. Remember the hardness of the floor. A dull pain spreads beneath your feet. Your knees. Remember the long hours of standing. Your back remembers each time you bent down. Your shoulders, your arms, and your fingertips all move more slowly than they did in the morning. But the machinery has not slowed. It does not move more gently because you are tired. The shuttle continues to race from side to side. The bobbins continue to turn at the same speed. The cloth continues to grow little by little at the same pace. And so you continue to move your hands at the rhythm of the machine. Look right, look left, step forward, step back, bend, stand, hold the thread, release it. The repetition slowly becomes a single flow that requires almost no thought. Your body remembers the movements. Your feet remember where to walk. Your hands remember how to tie the thread. Your eyes remember how to notice the smallest irregularity. Watch, walk, tie, return. Watch, walk, tie, return. Within the gaslight, cotton dust continues to float slowly. In the daylight, it appeared white. Now, it glows with a faint golden color. A tiny particle passes near the flame, brightens for only a moment, then disappears into the dim air. Once again, upward, downward, to the right, to the left, moving with the vibration of the machines. The cotton dust drifts through the same space again and again. More dust settles upon your shoulders. Fine white fibers gather in your hair. Sweat remains upon your forehead. Soot and cotton dust mix upon your cheeks. You wipe your forehead with your sleeve. For one moment, you feel as though you could close your eyes. But in the afternoon, when tiredness and drowsiness begin to meet, you must not look away. You blink slowly and focus once again upon the rows of thread. One strand, then another. One strand, then another. The white thread moves in perfect order. Suddenly, from your own loom, you hear a small metallic sound. Tick, clatter, tick, clatter. It is slightly different from the usual rhythm. You immediately stop walking. It is not the thread. It is not the shuttle. A small metal fitting on the side of the machine seems to touch another part. Each time the loom moves. Tick, clatter, tick, clatter. From a safe distance, you examine the place where the sound is coming from. The fitting has become slightly loose. If the machine continues moving, the vibration may loosen it even more. The metal piece could fall into the machinery. The thread might become badly tangled. The entire loom could stop without warning. You quickly raise one hand and signal to the overseer. You point toward the machine and indicate the unusual sound. The overseer approaches and listens for a moment. Tick, clatter, tick, clatter. He nods slightly and tells you to stop the loom. You perform the stopping motion. The machine slowly begins to lose speed. Clatter, clatter, clat, clat. Then it stops quietly. The machines around you continue to move, so the room does not become silent. Yet when the loom in front of you comes to rest, it feels as though a small empty space has appeared. A repairman approaches, carrying a toolbox. He places the box upon the floor and examines the loose fitting. He removes a small tool, places it against the metal, and slowly tightens it. Click, click, click. Not too tightly, not too loosely. Little by little, he adds the proper pressure. While he works, you examine the loom around you. Has any thread broken? Has the cloth loosened? Did a bobbin shift when the machine stopped? One by one, you check everything quietly. The repairman touches the fitting once more and confirms that it no longer moves. Then he gives a small nod to the overseer. The loom is ready to begin again. You release the thread and stand in a safe position. After watching the overseer's signal, you start the loom once more. Clat, clatter, thump, thump. The shuttle begins moving slowly. Then the loom returns to its former speed. The metallic ticking sound has disappeared. Only the familiar rhythm remains. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. You watch. The edge of the cloth, the thread, is flowing correctly. The metal fitting remains in place. The loom is once again working in a steady rhythm. You breathe out softly and return to your familiar task. Watch the thread walk. Watch the cloth return. Watch the thread walk. Watch the cloth return. The same flow quietly begins. Once again, the long afternoon shift. Fading light and machines that never stop outside. The light continues to fade. The buildings beyond the windows are slowly becoming gray shapes. The smoke rising from the chimneys mixes with the darkening sky. It becomes difficult to see where the smoke ends and the clouds begin. The flames of the gas lamps now appear brighter than before. One light, then another. Small yellow flames stand along the long passageway. Beneath them, the overseer walks through the factory. Tap, tap, tap. He writes something inside his notebook. He looks at the machines. He looks at the workers, then continues toward the far end of the room. While listening to his footsteps, you continue to move your hands. Watch. Walk. Tie. Return. Watch. Walk. Tie. Return. Before long, the worker beside you raises a hand and makes a small signal. More thread is needed. You take the proper bobbin from those nearby and carry it between the machines toward the next station. The worker receives it and gives a small nod. Words would disappear beneath the machinery, but the brief look and the quiet nod are enough to express thanks. You return to your own loom. Even that short walk makes your legs feel heavier. But once you reach your station, you begin the same movements again. Watch the thread. Watch the cloth. Check the bobbins. Watch the shuttle. One thread breaks. Find the ends. Hold them. Bring them together. Tie them. Check them. Return them to their place. Walk again. Time moves slowly toward evening. Yet the factory clock seems hardly to move at all. When you look at it once, the hands have moved only slightly. You work for what feels like a long while, then look again. Still, there is time before the end of the shift. You turn your eyes away from the clock. For now, you focus only upon the next thread you take, only the next step you make, only the next knot. If you think about the whole day, it feels very long. But one thread, one movement, one breath, those things can still be continued quietly. Breathe in. Watch the thread. Breathe out. Take one step. Breathe in. Watch the cloth. Breathe out. Return again. Your breathing, once more, begins to follow the machinery. Clatter. Breathe in. Thump. Breathe out. out. Whoosh. Step forward. Clack. Return again. The machines. The footsteps. The steam. The low vibration of the turning belts. All of them become one steady flow, carrying a long afternoon slowly forward. Hum. Hum. Hiss. Clutter. Clutter. Thump. Thump. You no longer remember how many times you have walked before the loom. You do not know how many threads you have repaired, how many times you have bent down, how many times you have stood again, how many times you have checked the bobbins. Every movement has joined the next and dissolved into the same long afternoon. Walk, watch, check, return, tie, watch, walk again, return again. The exhaustion is still there, in your feet, in your back, in your shoulders, in your eyes, in your fingers. But before long, even the tiredness feels like another part of the machinery's vibration. You walk with heavy feet. You watch the thread with tired eyes, and with stiff fingers, you form another knot to finish the long day for the family, waiting at home for tomorrow's food, for winter coal, for your children's shoes. You continue the same work. Watch, walk, tie, return. Watch, walk, tie, return. The small flames of the gas lamps sway gently outside the windows. The sky has grown darker. The rain still falls quietly. Inside the factory, hundreds of looms continue to make cloth in the same unchanging rhythm. And among the long rows of machines, you too continue the afternoon work, quietly, carefully, and steadily. Watch the thread, watch the cloth, watch the shuttle, watch your feet, watch your hands, listen to the machine. Make certain that nothing has gone wrong. Walk again, return again. One thread, then another. One step, then another. One knot, then another. And so, the afternoon passes, slowly, slowly. Before long, outside the factory, the daylight has almost disappeared. Reflected in the windows, you can see the gas lamps inside the factory, the shadows of the moving machines, and the figures of the workers walking before the looms. The bell announcing the end of the shift has not yet rung, but the end of the long day is slowly and certainly drawing near. As you wait for that moment, you turn your eyes once more toward the thread in front of you. Watch, walk, check, return. Watch, walk, check, return. Clatter, clatter, thump, thump, hiss, hum. Surrounded by the fading light outside the windows and the soft glow of the gas lamps, the long afternoon shift continues for a little while longer in the same steady rhythm. Chapter 7, Nightfall and Sleep. The gentle rain and deep rest after the children have fallen asleep. A peaceful silence returns to the little house. Inside the hearth, the glowing logs continue to burn slowly with gentle sounds. Crackle, crackle. The flame inside the lamp has also grown a little smaller. Its warm, golden light spreads softly across the wooden walls and the low ceiling. Outside the window, the rain, which had become a little lighter, begins to fall more steadily. Once again, drip, drip, patter, patter. Raindrops tap upon the roof, slide down the window, and quietly surround the little home. You sink gently into the small chair beside the hearth. Your legs still feel heavy after a long day. The legs that walked back and forth before the looms. The knees that carried the endless vibration of the hard wooden floor. The back that bent again and again to tie broken threads. Every part of your body quietly reminds you of the day. Now behind you, you lean against the chair and slowly breathe out. Your shoulders begin to relax. The stiffness in your neck slowly melts away. Across from you, your wife puts away the last of her sewing. She removes the needle from the cloth, cuts the thread, and gently returns everything to the small wooden box. Slip, tap. Only the faintest sounds fill the room. She has finished the day's work as well, and quietly takes a seat beside you. Between the two of you, there is no need for many words. Each of you understands how tired the other is. As you watch the fire, you quietly speak about the factory, the great noise of the machines that filled the morning, the fine threads that snapped again and again, the loom that became tangled during the afternoon, the small metal fitting that loosened upon your machine, and how everyone was fortunate to finish the day without a serious injury. Your wife listens quietly, nodding from time to time. It was a long day, she says, softly. You smile, just a little, and answer, yes, it truly was. Only those few words. Yet, inside the quiet room, they carry the warmth of people who care deeply for one another. Then, your wife speaks of her own day, how the children helped carry the firewood, how the little boy next door still has a fever, how the price of flour has risen once again, how the washing refused to dry because of the rain. None of these things are great events, yet each one matters to a family making its way through life. You listen quietly. Tomorrow morning, the remaining bread can be warmed. Once again, there is still a little bean soup left from tonight. How many days will the coal last until the next wages arrive? What can you buy and what must wait? The two of you speak softly about such things. Careful not to wake the sleeping children, allowing each word to blend into the gentle sound of the rain. Drip, drip, patter, patter. After a while, it is time to prepare for tomorrow. Your wife takes out a familiar cloth used to wrap your midday meal. It is worn from years of careful use, yet it still serves its purpose. Well, she places the remaining bread inside, alongside a small potato and a little piece of cheese. Tomorrow's lunch will be simple, just like today's. Yet, it will give you strength through another long morning and afternoon inside the factory. She folds the cloth carefully and ties the corners into a firm knot. Once, then once again, making certain that it will not come undone. You take tomorrow's work clothes and place them near the warmth of the hearth. The freshly washed fabric still holds a little dampness. It is not completely dry, but by morning, it'll be ready enough to wear. You smooth the sleeves, hang the shirt over the back of a chair, and place your heavy coat within easy reach. Then you lift your cap and gently brush away the last of the white cotton dust. Pat, pat. Tiny white fibers float through the lamplight before slowly settling upon the floor. Chapter 7. Nightfall and sleep, the gentle rain and deep rest. Next, you examine your repaired leather boots. With your fingers, you press along the newly sewn sole, making certain the stitches still hold. They're not perfect, but tomorrow they will once again carry you through another long day. You place the boots beside the front door, the right boot, then the left. Beside them, you leave the small cloth bundle holding tomorrow's lunch, so that before dawn, when the house is still dark, there will be no need to hurry. Everything is waiting where it should be. Your wife fills the iron kettle with fresh water. Tomorrow morning, it can be placed upon the fire without delay. Beside the hearth, she lays a few thin pieces of kindling. Small dry wood helps the morning fire catch more easily. You quietly lift the coal bucket and look inside. There is not much remaining. It must be used carefully. You place only A few pieces beside the fireplace, ready for dawn. At last, everything is prepared. Your wife looks slowly around the little room. The dishes have been put away. The washing hangs to dry. Your work clothes rest near the warmth of the fire. The boots are ready. The cap is ready. Tomorrow's lunch is waiting. The quiet preparations for another day have all been completed. There is nothing left to do. You quietly walk to the children's small bed. Both are sleeping peacefully. One child rests a tiny hand against a soft cheek. The other still holds the edge of the blanket while dreaming. You gently pull the blanket a little higher, covering their shoulders so the cold cannot reach them. One child moves slightly, then settles once again into deep sleep. Soft, steady breathing fills the room. You remain there for a quiet moment, looking at their peaceful faces. They are the reason you rise before sunrise, the reason you stand before the looms every morning, the reason you endure the endless hours inside the factory to place food upon the table, to buy warm clothes when the winter arrives, to keep this little home filled with light and warmth. But tonight, there is no need to think about tomorrow's long shift. Everything is ready. Your family is safe. Now, it is your turn to rest. Outside, the rain has grown steadier. Patter, patter. Steady rain falls across the rooftops. Water runs from the edges of the roof in narrow streams. Drip, drip. Soft rivers slide down the window glass. One drop, then another, slowly finding their way toward the ground. Outside, there are almost no people left upon the streets. Far away, the final wagon passes through the darkness. Rattle, rumble, rattle, rumble. Its sound gradually disappears into the rain. Perhaps some distant factory still works through the night. Perhaps one last machine still turns far away. But here, inside your little home, only the faintest memory of that sound remains. The rain is louder. Now, steady, gentle, endless. Patter, patter, patter. The fire inside the hearth has become small. Only glowing coals remain. Now and then, one tiny spark crackles softly. Crackle, crackle. Your wife turns the lamp slightly lower. The room grows darker. The shadows upon the walls slowly fade away. The familiar shapes of the furniture begin to melt Into the darkness, you quietly walk toward your bed. Slowly, you lie down, allowing the weight of the day to settle into the mattress. The bedding is thin, yet tonight it feels soft and welcoming. You stretch your legs, rest your back, place your head upon a small pillow. Little by little, your body grows heavier. Your feet relax. Your knees grow loose. Your back softens. Your shoulders become lighter. Your arms rest. Even your fingertips can finally be still. There are no threads left to tie. No machines to follow. No footsteps of the overseer to listen for. Now, there is only the rain. Chapter 7. Nightfall and sleep. The gentle rain and deep rest. Now, there is only the rain. Patter, patter. Steady, gentle, peaceful. The sound of the looms still lingers deep inside your ears. Clatter, thump, clatter, thump. But slowly, the rain covers every sound. Patter, clatter, patter, thump. Until only the rain remains. Patter, patter, patter. Your breathing grows slow and calm. Breathe in, breathe out. Once more, slowly and gently. Your eyelids grow heavier. The little house, the quiet hearth, your sleeping family, the gentle rain upon the roof. Nothing else needs your attention. Today's work is finished. Tomorrow is still far away. For now, there is only peace. Patter, patter. The rain falls softly through the night. Your body grows heavier. Your thoughts become quiet. The warmth of home surrounds you. The rain gently carries you deeper and deeper into sleep. Patter, patter. Rest now. Sleep deeply. Good night. May your sleep remain peaceful until the morning light. Patter, patter.